Hold on, did Jim Jones's rap career just end on live television thanks to Shannon Sharpe? Because it wasn't simply shade that occurred throughout the live stream. The funeral was conducted entirely online. Shannon Sharpe, who is well known for standing up for LeBron like he's his second cousin, is now entering the rap scene and going straight after Dipset's pride. Jim, like open mic night in a roasting contest, stepped straight into it. Shannon looked Jimmy dead in the face during a heated scene on Club Shay Shot Out the Soul and released the line that has gone viral. "My buddy, you don't even make the NS top 10. Boom. Twitter took off. There was silence in the barbershop. And since this wasn't just a disc, the timing hasn't recovered. Shannon Sharpe made it known to Jim Jones that he wasn't even deserving of a mention in the realm of greats. What, then, caused this nuclear incident? For what reason did Shannon, of all persons, come to Jim in this manner? What does nausea have to do with everything? This issue is much deeper than you may imagine, so buckle up. So, bang. Imagine this. Sitting in his throne at Club Shay and doing what he does best, Shannon is wearing a crisp suit and crispy glasses. Unapologetic shadow and a dash of southern class stir the stew. Innocently enough, the conversation began. Top 10 lists, hip-hop arguments, and the typical barber hop banter. The vibes are familiar to you. However, everything changed when Jim Jones appeared, like he was going to deliver scripture. Shannon leaned forward, took a leisurely sip from that glass, and murmured something so frigid that the internet went silent. "You don't even rank in N's top 10, Jim. Keep it a buck, please." Remember, Jim Jones wasn't even present. That didn't matter, though, because that one statement had the effect of a poetic guillotine. Instant firestorm on Twitter. Within minutes, podcast snippets appeared on all platforms. A fan shared the video online with "We shouldn't act as though this happened suddenly," despite the captions that read, "Shannon just folded Jimmy like a mixtape in 2004, and bro, got bodied on a podcast by a former tight end." This wasn't a coincidence. Years of repressed anxiety, illusion, and unbridled clout chasing culminated in this. You see, Jim Jones exhibits this behavior. Every few months, he puts on some shades, slicks back his braids, and declares himself to be in the top 5, but where are the top 5? We're not sure. Harlem's top 5, perhaps. The top 5 Dipset members, perhaps. And even that is debatable. This moment with Shannon wasn't spontaneous, so let's go back in time. It was the culmination of a long-running, slow-motion vehicle accident. Nas is simply the most recent trigger. In an interview from 2022, Jim claimed that Nas had no bearing on young people for all the wrong reasons. The quote went viral. Memes depicted him as a man who was making an excessive effort to remain in the debate, blogs made fun of him, and fans ridiculed him. Did he back down, though? He doubled down, no. He made another attempt months later, saying this time, he's good, but he doesn't have any bangers in the clubs. Bro, really? You're not bumping NS in the streets, people were saying. Jim Jones is talking about club bangers like it's still 2005, as if he were attempting to minimize nausea in order to promote Dipset Deluxe vinyls on Instagram. Shannon stated, "We're talking about Nas, a man who wrote Illmatic when some of you were still struggling to write a verse that rhymes, and when he brought it up on Club Shaw, it wasn't just commentary, it was Judgment Day." He then turned to face the camera and continued, "And Jim think he can look at that guy?" One guy titled his video, "Shannon Sharpe finishes Jim Jones live and unfiltered," and another clip featured Shannon with Nas instrumentals playing in the background as Jim's face gradually faded to black and white. Dude, come on. Jimmy cool, but let's not get delusional. That part alone had the internet in flames, and YouTube reactors wasted no time. It was brutal, but it was funny, and fans were there for it all. Here's where it got even stranger. Jim Jones went live on Instagram shortly after the video went viral in an attempt to respond, but instead of resolving the issue, he made things worse by saying, "Man, I respect Shannon, but he don't know what he talking about when it comes to rap. He loves football. "I've done more for the streets than Nas ever did," he continued. "Dude, let's speak about reality, not fiction." In the comments, fans were dropping LS like it was a clearance sale, saying things like, "Bro, you're not even the best in Dipset. You're talking legacy with a basketball court in your living room." This man really tried to equate street presence with legendary status, saying things like, "Ballin' had the same impact as one Mike." Media outlets also began to jump in, creating fake headlines about Shannon Sharpe versus Jim Jones. Nas remains silent while Jones delves deeper, but the silence only made it worse because, let's face it, nothing says, "I'm above this," like watching your name being dragged and not even flinching. The culture took that silence and ran with it, and memes appeared everywhere, one of which featured NS sipping tea on a throne while Jim's live stream began on another with the caption, "Jimmy is trying to enter the locker room covertly, and Nausea is in a completely different league." Oh, Shannon wasn't finished. He went even further in a different part, saying, "We mistake being loud for being legendary. Screaming does not automatically result in bars." Everyone understood what he meant, even though he wasn't mentioning names. Nas can rap about the system, about the struggle, he added. Concerning legacy, some people only rap about their lean and clothes. The comments section went crazy. Jim with a dash of wisdom and Shannon Cook. Compared to Jimmy's previous 3 records, UNCC lost more bars. Imagine being bodied by a suit-clad retired football player. To top it all off, Benzo added his voice. He did, of course. Because Benzo enjoys getting involved in other people's flame battles more than anything else. Fans were pleading with Nas to reply when he tweeted, "I told y'all Jimmy because Shannon just said what N's too classy to say." Now we got Benzano of all people pretending to be the gatekeeper of rap culture, and somehow it made the whole situation even funnier. The craze was #DropFair. People were saying things like, "Give us one bar, just one. Make it Light Ether Jr. style. Just breathe on the mic, don't even rhyme." However, there was still no word from Nas, which made Jimmy appear even more desperate. "Don't even look your way when you throw punches," and the legend, people said. But just when we thought things couldn't get worse, Jim found himself buried under memes, clowned by a Hall of Famer, disregarded by Nas, and roasted by the very supporters he thought would ride with him. That's when you realize you're punching shadows. When Jimmy said, "I've done more for the streets than Nas ever did," it was over. Reddit was ablaze with threads titled, "Jim Jones, the Case Study," and "Clout Over Culture," and Nas ignored him into oblivion. Jim Jones had attempted and failed to defend himself on Instagram Live, and the internet had already begun creating his digital obituary. Let's not sugarcoat this. This wasn't your typical rap debate. Rather, it was a public humiliation campaign, and Shannon Sharpe was just the match. The screenshots read, "He's not even worth a verse, fam." Shannon did what Ether did without a hitch, but, as usual, when a celebrity feud goes viral, the internet starts fabricating fake evidence faster than Jimmy can say, "So we fly high." A purported leak surfaced, a purported text exchange between Shannon Sharpe and Nas. Of course, it was a fake, but who cares, because when it's messy, people run with it. Saying his name gave him too much. Escobar is the sender name that was just saved. "Bro, got Nas saved like a drug lord accountant," fans said. One person said, "Nas sending cryptic messages while sipping red wine in silence," and Twitter laughed it up as if it were scripture. Jim Jones rants on Instagram for 9 minutes. However, it didn't end there because the phony voice message followed. Yes, exactly. A highly artificial intelligence, a manipulated audio clip purportedly showing Nas saying, "Jimmy wants attention. I want peace. That's why I don't respond to noise. I just don't live it." It was obviously scripted. Obviously phony. But was anyone interested? Not at all. Under the sound name Nas Speaks Legend Vibes, it began to gain popularity on TikTok. Individuals were utilizing it for music is played subtly in the background of sketches, edits, and even phony tribute videos using dips. When NS surpasses you without using a pen, the caption got viral. Then the memes appeared. One included a split screen with NS serenely meditating with incense in a gold robe while Jim Jones yelled live. And just when it seemed that things couldn't get much worse, fictitious lawsuits entered the scene. Another was a photoshopped image of the Dipset logo in a museum with a sign underneath that said, "Retired exhibit last seen relevant in 2007 talk." Shannon Sharpe was to be sued by the Jim Jones label for public defamation of brand image, according to a Twitter feed posing as Hip Hop Insider TV. Of course, it was a hoax, but once more, the fun was in the mayhem. One user commented, "Jim suing Shannon for telling the truth is like suing mirrors for showing your face." The sentence in the fictitious court document that was being around said, "Mr. Sharpe's remarks severely impacted our client's ability to be taken seriously in the genre of hip-hop." The so-called PR fallout followed. A phony screenshot that purported to show Dipset's own public relations team releasing a statement separating themselves from Jim's remarks went viral. The statement read, "Dipset values hip-hop legacy. Individual comments from members do not reflect the group's official stance." Bruh, that had the internet thinking Dipset was done. People were tweeting, "Dipset done broke up again because Jim couldn't keep Nas' name out of his mouth." Rumor has it that Cameron enjoyed posting that read, "You would think Jim Jones would go silent when Jimmy dropped himself, but instead he doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down and went live again." Yes, another Instagram live, with a cigar in his hand, Dipset memorabilia in the background, and that signature, "I'm not mad. I'm only y'all not going play me. I'm a legend. I changed fashion in this game. I made pink wool. I brought Harlem to the world." He said in a passionate tone that shouts, "You definitely mad." Fans commented, "Bro, think he invented colors. We're talking music, not outfits. Jimmy, you brought Harlem to the timeline, but Nas brought the culture to the world. Look, I respect the hustle, but when it comes to this thing called legacy, you got to learn when about gracefully, not bark blindly." Then the dagger, "Nas don't just make music, he makes time stand still." Shannon Clapback Part 2 aired. Shannon Sharpe told Jim that he brought Harlem to the world while the world wasn't even checking his Spotify. Oof. He continued, "Just when you thought things were leveling out, academics jumped in." Yes, DJ Academics went live, shaking his head like a disappointed father. Jim had one job, say nothing, but he chose violence and violence. Fans were losing it. You can't win a war against someone who's already immortal. Shannon was spitting more facts than half the XXL freshmen. I asked ChatGPT to name 5 Jim Jones classics, and it said, "Error, song not found," the sports analyst stated after he was blasted with better bars than his mixtape. Fans began creating playlists with titles like What Jim Thinks He Sounds Like, What Nas Actually Sounds Like, Dipset Dreams, and Ether Nightmares. By this time, the drama between Jim and Nas had devolved into a digital slaughter, and the cherry on top the sound was a slowed-down rendition of Shannon saying, "You're not even in N's top 10. The chaotic cake was a TikTok fad. The trend, people walking away from mirrors. People throwing Dipset CDs in trash cans. A guy lighting a pink bandana on fire with the caption, 'My Dipset era is done.' When you realize Jim ain't top 10 in N contacts, let alone his list." Shannon captioned a TikTok of a youngster feigning a crime while hurling his Tim Hortons at the wall. "Jimmy should have just said peace king," Benzo stated in a subsequent Instagram post. And logged off. Now look, now people started digging up old Dipset footage, old freestyles, anything to discredit Jim further. And to be fair, Jim has talent. He does, but the internet doesn't care about nuance when the meme machine is fully loaded. One user posted, "This man went from ballin' to falling. Every 48 hours, another Jim tries to justify himself, because silence from a legend says more than 1,000 podcasts, live streams, and pink bandanas." But just when you think the damage is done, Part 3 comes in full force with fictitious press conferences, hypothetical Nas vs. Jim Bray's flyers, a Shannon Sharpe XN Nas collab rumor, and the ultimate humiliation that even Jimmy's fans couldn't defend. By now, ours is worse than the original comments, and Nas remained silent. And that, my guy, is power. Jim Jones wasn't just trending, he was the protagonist of a public downfall story that continued to spiral out of control. Faster than anyone could have predicted. If you thought the internet was done making fun of him, it was about to get hammered live. Let's go back to that enigmatic tweet from a verified burner account that said, Nas x Shannon vs coming soon. Completely phony, but it caused a stir among enthusiasts. Hold up, people said, before Jim Jones received a response, did Shannon Sharpe really land a collaboration with Nas? Fake posters were all over social media. Shannon in a rag. A black and white picture of nausea. Standing side by side beneath the tagline. Bars don't hit as hard as silence. What was Jimmy's action? He went live once more. Yes, once more. This time from an upscale while attempting to demonstrate that he didn't care about the defamation since he was too busy making money. He was unaware, however, that Twitter had already planned a funeral. In a matter of seconds, everyone was responding as usual. While his career is being incinerated, this bro is trying to show off. No one wants the music, even if he has a studio. Then the greatest embarrassment in the whole story occurred. Suddenly an aid phony appeared. And beautifully crafted spoof video appeared that showed Nas passing a red carpet reporter. Nas, any words for Jim Jones? The reporter asks. Who? Nas asks, smiling and nodding. The clip is a complete fabrication, but it seemed so authentic that fans were enthralled. It's chilly. That's how a single word can destroy someone. Thanos merely nodded and snapped at Jimmy. Additionally, the phony FCUS flyers continued to stir things up just as the memes were beginning to settle down. Individuals started making up lineups, silence versus nausea winner. Feel sick. Jim Jones versus Twitters. Jim's ego winner. Shannon Sharpe versus anyone stupid enough to DISN, of course. Timberland even included an emoji of laughter beneath one of the phony versus flyers. People no longer even made an effort to be accurate. The story had fallen apart into utter pandemonium. Jim's last live stream was the title of a fake YouTube podcast that received thousands of views. One counterfeit Jim was holding a Dipset chain in the thumbnail, which said, "When clout chasing goes wrong, a case study." The phony press conference followed. Yes, fans created a reaction video goldmine from a faux news conference video in which an actor portraying Jim Jones stands at a podium and says, "I'd like to apologize to Nas, hip-hop culture, and my Wi-Fi provider for all the recent confusion." Videos with laugh tracks, funeral music, and even gospel choirs were created from clips of the fictitious press conference. A phony DJ Clue leak stated that Jim attempted to contact Nas privately and was left on read, while another comment read, "This man needs witness protection from the internet." According to a different leak, Jimmy DM'd Shannon Sharpe, requesting a seat, and Shannon left him there. It was an emotional, spiritual, and digital humiliation. Then, people began to perceive Dipset's silence as a sign of remoteness. Cameron did not publicly support it. Joel Santana offered no defense. No posts of solidarity from the past. Nothing. It was referred to be the tranquil exit by the streets. Cameron allegedly told someone during a party, according to fake sources, "I've grown up enough to stop chasing shadows." He has an issue with he study, don't you think? The fans went crazy over it, whether it was genuine or not. A Cameron remark was even put onto the cover of a Nas record. He won this using only gifts and no PENIT was cruel. Shannon Sharpe's stock soared at the same time. With the caption, "Not top 10, huh," he shared a brief video of himself drinking tea. The comments section was a battleground. You didn't even try to end a rapper. For a silence, Nas ought to give you credit for co-writing. Ballin felt like background noise because of you. Then the phony sponsorships appeared. Ads featuring Shannon and Nas in Nike commercials with the words of "Class Never" were shared by fans. Breaks down. Legends reverberate rather than scream. Ads for bogus fragrance even appeared. Nas's ether. The aroma of heritage. Jimmy's mid-tier. The aroma of despair. Then came merchandise. Without a verse, people printed shirts with Shannon X, Nas checked. Jim is silent but lethal. Jim Jones' authentic music, on the other hand, was lost in the devastation caused by algorithms. Following Shannon's roast, one YouTuber staged a reaction video called "Listening to Jim Jones. I'm not capable of that." Spotify memes ensued as others laughed, paused, and said, "Yeah, this aged like milk in the desert." A phony screenshot with a banner stating "Relevantity unavailable" showed a 50% decline in his monthly listeners. The phony industry backlash followed. According to a widely circulated bogus report, a deaf executive jam claimed that Jim's stunt unnerved the labels. No one desires to argue with a ghost. Even A&R pages began sharing a phony producer's tweet that read, "We were about to send him beats. Then he dissed Nas. Now we sending those beats to silence." First rule, don't disparage legends. The second rule is to never make fun of someone when they aren't even looking. The supporters now concurred bars didn't defeat Jim. The hardest disc wasn't a track, therefore he lost to non-response. There was no podcast. Shannon Sharpe wasn't even involved. Nas was doing nothing at all. That week, the entire civilization gained knowledge. You have the potential to go viral. If you choose the wrong poetic tree, you will become enmeshed in its roots, even if you are able to trend. In one corner, Grammy-winning hip-hop legend Nas, and assassin of quiet. In the other, Jim Jones was having his retirement party online and yelling into space. And the legacy, well, it was written beforehand. Nausea did not change. Jim Jones turned into a warning story. As well as Shannon Sharpe. He ended up serving as the unanticipated narrator of one of the most amusing, hilarious, and pettiest phony quarrel sagas hip-hop has ever requested. However, it's clear that this story isn't about who dropped the sexiest song. Who dropped the microphone without even taking it up is the question. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how one man was buried. By stillness after barking into the emptiness. The question of whether Jim Jones killed his career in real life still stands after all the smoke, all the phony leaks, and all the digital destruction. In how not to check a living legend, was this a master last? Jim, let's face it, attempted to compete with a poetic god who didn't even need to appear. He somehow won the conflict despite Nas not mocking him, pointing at him, or even looking in his direction. The most deadly diss track was silence. The unintentional hype man turned out to be Shannon Sharpe. Like the ghost of a mixtape's past, Benzano Bro appeared and began delivering verbal obituaries. We would like to hear from you now, though. Was this the decade's most embarrassing rap misstep? Will Jim Jones recover from this roast at the nuclear level? Or is his legacy now hidden beneath bogus news as a meme, AI leaks, billboards, and deleted direct messages? Leave a comment below with your opinions. Just facts, or bogus ones, without any filter. We're not particular. And you know what to do if this lyrical train crash is as entertaining to you as it is to us. As Jim smacked his own relevancy, like this video, hit the subscribe button, and